You think you know Aladdin? A clever street rat and a hero for love. But the origins Disney buried are horrifying. In the original 1704 tale, Aladdin's idle hands drove his father to an early grave. He used supernatural power not for romance, but for coercion. And his quest for the princess led to calculated murder. The real Aladdin is not just misunderstood, he is terrifying. What did Disney fear you would discover if you traced the story back to its true source? Aladdin's story, as first told by Antoine Galland in 1704, begins far from heroism. The earliest pages describe a boy who refuses every honest trade. Aladdin spends his days running the streets, ignoring his mother's pleas and shaming his father. The text calls him a careless, idle fellow and blames his father's death on this relentless laziness. Galland writes that Aladdin's father died of grief because his son would not work, leaving Aladdin alone with his mother and no clear future. This isn't the scrappy underdog Disney made famous. This is a son whose selfishness destroys his own family. The turning point comes not from courage, but from a desire to escape poverty without effort. Aladdin's first real act is to chase after glimpses of the princess, driven by raw curiosity and lust. The original tale makes no mention of love or destiny. It describes only a boy who wants what he cannot have and who is willing to watch from the shadows. These early choices reveal a foundation built on idleness, disrespect, and obsession, not virtue. The story's darkness starts here, with a character whose moral compass is already lost, long before magic enters the scene. On the night of the princess's wedding to the vizier's son, Aladdin's obsession turns into something colder and more calculated. He commands the genie to seize the newlywed's bed and transport it, mattress, sheets, and all, straight from the palace to his own room. The groom is ripped from his new wife and locked away in a freezing privy, left to shiver behind a bolted door until morning. Alone with the princess, Aladdin does not offer comfort or explanation. He draws a sword and places it between them, a silent threat that makes the boundaries of her captivity clear. She spends the night in terror, forced to lie beside her abductor while her husband is held prisoner just out of earshot. This is not a single act. For 2 nights, Aladdin repeats the ordeal, using magical power to enforce his will and break down any sense of safety she might have had. The original text does not soften these details. The bride is powerless, the groom humiliated, and Aladdin's authority grows with each command. The line between victim and possession is drawn by steel and by fear, not by love or destiny. Aladdin's path grows dark when his enemies threaten the power he has clawed from nothing. The first to fall is the African magician who returns to reclaim the lamp. Aladdin's solution is not a clever trick or a daring escape. He instructs the princess to pour poison into the magician's wine, turning her into an unwilling accomplice. The text makes no mention of mercy. As the magician gasps and collapses, Aladdin steps over the body to seize the lamp again. No remorse, no hesitation. But the cycle of violence does not end there. The magician's brother, disguised as a holy woman, enters Aladdin's home under the pretense of blessing the household. Aladdin, warned by the genie, wastes no time. He draws a knife and stabs the brother in the chest, killing him in front of his wife and servants. There is no duel, no warning, just a swift, calculated murder to protect his claim. These are not the actions of a misunderstood hero. The original tale leaves no doubt. Aladdin's rise is paved with blood. Each murder is deliberate, each victim a threat to his power. The boy who once shamed his father now eliminates rivals without a second thought. The genie bursts out of the lamp with a line that has been stuck in pop culture for decades. 10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck. That number is more than a joke. It is a puzzle. If Aladdin's world is supposed to be ancient, set in a version of the Islamic Golden Age, maybe around 800 AD, then the Genie's statement puts his imprisonment back to roughly 9,200 BC. That is thousands of years before the earliest cities, before the first written stories, before the rise of Persia or Arabia. The timeline makes no sense. The Genie, voiced by Robin Williams, rattles off impressions of Jack Nicholson and Arnold Schwarzenegger, references that would not exist in any ancient era. Yet the script plants him in a world of sultans and flying carpets, as if centuries have passed in a single blink. The math does not line up. If the Genie was trapped for 10,000 years, he would have entered the lamp long before recorded history. But he talks and jokes like someone who just walked out of a 20th century comedy club. The contradiction is not just a throwaway gag. It cracks open the story's logic and leaves a gap that cannot be closed by magic alone. The numbers are there in plain sight, but the implications are quietly ignored. The Genie's timeline is a riddle that never gets solved, and the world around him starts to feel less like a real past and more like a stage built from fragments, bits of ancient myth, modern humor, and something that does not quite belong to either time. This is where the story slips out of the comfort of fairy tale logic and into a territory that is harder to explain. The evidence sits in the script, waiting for someone to do the math. Agrabah's skyline doesn't resemble any real city from history. The domes and minarets are twisted, mismatched, almost as if they've been cobbled together from the ruins of a lost civilization. In the opening shot of Disney's film, broken columns jut out of the sand, and the palace towers over a wasteland that looks less like ancient Baghdad and more like a city built on the bones of something older, maybe something destroyed. This isn't an accident. The backgrounds are littered with hints that the world of Aladdin stands on the edge of collapse, not glory. The magic carpet isn't just a piece of woven cloth. It moves with purpose, responds to commands, and folds itself midair. Its patterns pulse with a strange, circuit-like glow. In one storyboard interview, animators described the carpet's movement as almost mechanical. The way it hovers, the way it spins and darts, feels more like anti-gravity technology than any spell. The carpet's intelligence never gets explained, but it's clear this isn't a simple artifact. It's a relic. Something left over from a time when machines could still think for themselves. Then there is Iago, the wise-cracking parrot. In the original stories, animals don't talk. But here, Iago doesn't just mimic words. He plans, he schemes, he even impersonates people. His vocabulary is enormous, his sarcasm razor-sharp. The only way a bird could develop that level of speech and personality is not magic, but genetic tinkering. In a world rebuilt from fragments, who is to say what creatures survived the last disaster or how they were changed to suit the whims of their masters? The peddler at the start of the film, with his knowing smile and hidden lamp, hints at an even bigger secret. Directors Ron Clements and John Musker once admitted in interviews that the peddler was meant to be the genie in disguise, a survivor wandering the ruins, telling stories to anyone who would listen. The scene was cut, but the theory remains. The genie isn't just a prisoner of the lamp. He is a witness to the end of the old world, and the only one left who remembers what was lost. Fairy tales shape what we accept as good, evil, and possible. When studios rewrite darkness into wish fulfillment, they do not just change stories. They rewrite our moral memory. The real danger is not what is hidden in the past, but what we are willing to ignore in the stories we embrace today.